Good morning, and welcome to Who Am I? It's a little show I do every day. It's sort of my own personal meditation practice, but it's more than that because I do have an agenda with this. Although, on the one hand, I try to achieve a platform of non-resistance. Ultimately, I do have an agenda. I do have a purpose. It is my intention, my humble intention, to work in my own way to help raise my consciousness in order to raise the consciousness of mankind, because I am mankind. And you are too, by the way. We are all this greater being, this higher self, this larger self that includes all of us. We are all that. So my agenda is not just to raise consciousness, although I believe that this is a necessary component to my ultimate agenda. If I have a physical agenda. I have rarely had a physical agenda in my whole life. The several times that I sallied forth to make large differences in the world, it was generally from a negative impulse. The desire I became an animal activist, and at one point I became politically active, not so many years ago, before I realized that my resistance was actually funneling energy to the other side of the equation. And you could see it happen. It was like, oh, oops. And so I withdrew from that arena. I am no longer political. And, my former political allies do try to contact me, but I'm not contactable. I am not politically active anymore because I do no longer believe that the political activity, which actually only exacerbates polarity, and polarity is actually the enemy. And so I decided to withdraw my attention from the political world in that way. Now, I'm still very aware, very conscious, very interested in the movement of politics, but I now see politics for what I think what it is. So what the whole exercise of law and government and all of that is. And believe me, I'm not pushing back against any of that in a way. But there will be a moment in time when something else will be our guiding star. And when that time comes, I believe that our laws and our rules will also start to change to reflect that. But we're going to have to start pinging off of the impulses of source at some point. Wean ourselves off of the law as the primary. I mean, the rules and stuff will still be in place, but it'll be more like, strong guidelines, backed up guidelines, in the sense that, like, when people start going off the rails, there will be firm hands stopping them from doing, the outrageous antisocial behaviors that are now against the law. I'm air quoting law right now. You can't see it, but that's what I'm doing. I'm also going to switch this picture. It changes too much when it goes to the when it loops. Anyway, what was I going to say? it has to do with the fact that if there's 10 billion people on the planet, we can't, our forcing each other to follow laws is just not going to keep working. I mean, I don't mean to be a naysayer, but it's not in alignment, and so it's not going to sustain. It's not going to be a good way to go forward. This model of, we write these laws, and they are good laws, and everyone must follow the laws. And if they do not follow the laws, we will hunt them down, and we will prosecute the culprits, and we will make sure that they are punished to the full extent of the law. And somehow this is going to, I don't know, inspire better behavior. Well, to a point it does. To people like me, there's a whole lot of things like, I might be inclined to take things, like fruit. I don't know. The general law-abiding person is motivated to a higher order because of the punishment of the law. But you know what? It's going to be harder and harder and harder to force our fellow human beings to behave in ways in accordance with the law if it's not in accordance with the energies around them. It'll hold back some, but it ain't going to hold back all of it. And it's going to be a really interesting exercise right now in the United States to see whether or not the law will hold up. Now, the law could hold up over time if people could hold on to their understanding of American democracy and what the whole American democracy project was or is. It's still ongoing, this project. Is it going to hold back? Is it going to be a fence strong enough to hold back this energy stream, this energy form that is coming smack at us? Very interesting to see whether it will. We've got the authoritarian crashing through the boundaries, breaking the institutions, bending the ones that were designed to keep an autocrat down. He's kind of breaking through them. And the question is, if he gets elected, and there's a really good chance he will, if the Democrats don't put up a better candidate, if they would put up a candidate of bland sanity, he would be elected. They do not have to have a charisma, and they better not have they better not put up Kamala. They just better not. She won't be elected for a whole lot of reasons. Anyway, where am I? I am at this place, this platform I call Who Am I? And my agenda is twofold. One is peace on earth, goodwill towards men. A better, more harmonic, more symphonic, more joyful, co-creative, cooperative paradigm of abundance for both human and non-human. Here, I'm going to change it to this one because I think it's less irritating. Those other two, I like them, but I don't like the fact that they keep moving and looping, and I can see the loop. This one I probably will too, but it moves so slow. I think that it's going to be a little less jarring. Anyway, my first point on my agenda is I would like to see us do better. My second one is we need to get off fossil fuels. And you know what? If we get that one, I think the first one will come about naturally. Because I think this paradigm of scarcity that we are living, that we are all living, that we imagine is normal. Now, I'm on the very edge of the scarcity. I can see it, but I'm not exactly living it. I wouldn't complain about the life I'm living. I live a very good life. You know, I feel very blessed, especially, I mean, if I compare myself to the ideal, well, no. But if I compare myself to where we came from, absolutely. Oh my gosh. It's all relative anyway. It's all relative, and the sense is the relative you're supposed to be headed towards. The motion is from less to more. And it's relative, and you can tell which direction you're moving. You can tell, is it becoming more? And yes for sure, and no in another way. Now I know that well-being abounds. I know that people who bang the drum of the problems of the world may or may not be seeing the ultimate abundance that surrounds us. We live in an abundance creation machine. An abundance creating machine. And how does it work? It works by virtue of all the desires of all the beings involved in the equation. And what Source is doing is Source is standing in the win-win-win-win position. Can see all desires. Now, if you are not standing in the win-win position, if you're standing in win-lose position and you're looking at yourself in the win spot and other things in the lose spot, you're out of alignment. But Source still knows what you really want and knows where what you really want tags in with what everybody else wants. So that's the deal. Where are you? And I throw this word you around very loosely. I can hear it in my mind. Sometimes I'm saying you, big you, and sometimes I'm saying you, little you, and sometimes I'm saying you, combined you. Because you are these three yous. And let's face it, they really are three yous. You know, I keep saying we're a binary system, and I think we're not a binary system. We are a trinary system. Is that a word? And so I'm going to have to put up a different visual. I can go back to this one. It's true. I think that might be how come I kept looking at it, because I needed to. This is important. I keep saying we're a binary system. You are both your micro and your macro, but you're really a trinary system, and I don't have a picture for that, so I've got to go somewhere else while I talk about this. How about this one? This one's pretty benign. Let me just sit here on this picture, which really means nothing. Except for that everything comes out of spin. Spin is everything. Spin is fundamental. All matter, as it crosses from pure potential into virtual reality, which is actually what all the particles are doing as they pop into being and then pop right out of being and then pop into being and then pop right out of being. And sometimes they stay and sometimes they don't. But they are virtual particles, but it's just because they don't stay very long, not because they aren't absolutely real when they're here. You're popping in and out of existence all the time, and as you pop in, as any of your elements, and all of your elements do this every Planck's instant, are popping in and out across the, what I call, because it just seems apropos, across the event horizon of the 0-point energy field. As it pops into being, it's spinning. Spin is fundamental. It's baked into the cake. And there is a foundational spin. I was calling it original spin. Just right in this second, the word foundational comes to me. Fundamental has already come to me. Fundamental spin. Foundational spin. There's a spin that we all come out of, that we're all tagged into, that we're all touching. It is source. So I don't want to get too esoteric. Who am I? Who am I? Why do I even ask this question? Because I don't believe it's adequately answered. And also, I also believe that this question comes up every instant, ongoing, from here forward. It's not something... The who am I question is not like a college degree. That once you answer the question, it's, you've got the answer forevermore. Once you achieve it, it's yours. It's not like that. It's like alignment. The who am I question is like alignment. And as a matter of fact, it is alignment, because as you answer this question, who am I, you achieve relative states of alignment with what the truth actually is about who you are. You are a physicality. There is an actual, literal you that you really are. A you made of flesh and bone that was born on a date on the continuum, but before that was source energy, before you came into this physical body. And the larger part of you still is. Actually, you still are source energy. We are all source energy. We are extensions of source energy. Extensions from this original spin. And it really, really matters. I used to think of us as a binary, and actually it's useful to ponder the binary aspect. But you really are a trinary. You are you small you large you, and then you that is possible to combine the two yous. Now, most people don't live out of that, but you could. You could live every minute of every day from a conscious awareness of both selves that you are. You could. I suppose that is my goal, to live out of both of myselves at the same time, as much as I can. Now, I want to do that consciously because I think it's fun. Because I think that we can accomplish big things if we are aware of our big self. Now, what's going to start happening, and it hasn't really happened to me yet, in the sense that I'm still pretty much operating solo. I don't have any cooperative components around me. My husband, my daughters, their significant others. That's about it. I have roped no one else in, and I'm pretty much hermetized myself. Most days I exist alone. Me and my husband, we do things, and we're meeting people this afternoon. Gonna go have lunch with some friends, and we're gonna play golf perhaps tomorrow morning. So, by the way, I probably won't do a show tomorrow morning, but I might make up for it by later this morning. I might post an extension or a special edition with a guest in the studio. It's the same guest we had last time, my daughter. We don't use our names necessarily. I'm not looking for fame necessarily. I would love it if my ideas took off. And it's my own particular brand of how I put it together, because the ideas that I robbed them from other people, for heaven's sakes. I'm talking law of attraction, and I'm talking unified physics, and I'm talking about Wetiko, and I'm talking about, the the Trinity of our souls and stuff. Is that anything new? Of course it's not. None of that's new. But I put it together in a new way, and that's what all of us are capable of doing, putting it all together in a new and glorious way. Put the Lego set that we're all given. We all have the same Lego set. It's the same allness. It's the same wholeness. It's the same integer universe. That I own it, you own it. I've got all the pieces, you've got all the pieces. And the reason is because it's holographic. You know? That's how come your inner being has all the information that it has, is because the universe is holographic, and it is uploading all of, you are uploading your information to the whole, and the whole is downloading all of its information to you all the time. Did you know that? We are amazing. We are amazing, we're amazing, we're amazing, and we live in an amazing, 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 amazing universe. And it's so amazing that we could spend all of our time, instead of looking at the problems that we've got, and we do have plenty of problems, we could start focusing on how cool it is and how it works and who we are and how we work, and it would start occurring to us how to fix our problems. But you can't get those downloads until you start focusing in the right direction. Start focusing on the solution instead of on the problem. And what is the solution? Well, I think the solution is knowing who we are. I think that not knowing who we are is causing the problem, exacerbating the problem, continuing the problem. It's kind of a Buddhist sort of a perspective on this. I'm going to show you how it kind of relates. Here we got the 5 kleshas. These are from Buddhist philosophy. They are considered to be the root causes of all suffering, and I'm going to have to agree with them. Not knowing what's real is the problem, because, see, only the love is real. The rest of it's there, but it's not real. And we can bring it into being with our attention on it, and then you can point to it and say, look, it's real. But if you quit looking at it, if you quit focusing in that direction, it would subside. The problems would go away, and the glories would start to appear if we would quit focusing upon the problems. Now, I'm not saying you can't look at the problems. You can look at the problems, because where we are now is a springboard to where we want to be. So you have to look at reality. Yes, you do. But you don't have to just stare and fixate, especially on the problem aspect. You can look at now from a let's focus on who we are kind of a perspective, and it will start occurring to us rather immediately what to do about our problems. That's because when we do the other, when we focus on who we are, and focus on what's going well, and focus on how cool the universe is designed, and what is real about it, which is only the love's real. So you focus on the love part, and you start noticing, you will start noticing the love peeping out of the bushes in places that you did not even begin to expect. Your heart will just open up. So now, I actually am not a proponent of telling anybody else anything specifically about what they should do. It's a big deal for me. And actually, ask my children. I've been terrible about it my whole life. It's probably the biggest failing that I have had as a parent. And yet, I stand by it. Because I actually don't think that that telling someone you have to do such and such is really the right answer. I don't think that's how it works. Because ultimately, what you're teaching your children is not to take directions from you, but to learn how to take their directions from the rest of the universe. Now, to be fair, when I was raised, someone told me for a while, although my mother was, my parents were really good about not micromanaging anything. And yet, the house ran pretty smoothly. There was 8 kids for a while because my parents took in 4 of my first cousins. And so for a number of years, there was a lot of us in that household. And my mother was a school teacher, and my father worked for the Forest Service. It's not like anybody was, they weren't even merchants of any sort, making any kind of good money, owning the local furniture store or whatever, the hardware store, whatever families used to do. But they did a really good job. How they raised us, they had 2 properties, one up in the mountains, one down in the city, both with acreage, an acre in the city, 3.5 in the country. We raised, I don't know, why am I saying this? Because this show is Who Am I? And part of it is going to come from you understanding who am I? Why would I be saying the things that I say? Why do I come from? If you want to imagine what history I know in my mind, then know who I came from. My father was a World War II vet, fought in the South Pacific. At 17 years old, he joined up. By the end of the year, he's still 17 years old. He's fighting on Tarawa. And then for 2 weeks afterwards, mopping up the dead. And then he goes on to Tinian and Saipan and Okinawa, and then he was part of the occupying forces on the mainland of Japan, near Nagasaki. After the bombings, he was part of the occupying forces. And yet he was a gentle, kind man. Afterwards, after the war, he joined the Forest Service, got his master's degree in forestry, joined the Forest Service, and became a man of the trees. Not a man, he didn't spend his days, afternoons drinking at the VFW, talking old war stories. As a matter of fact, when I was growing up, you couldn't get him to talk about World War II. He hadn't sorted it out in his mind. He hadn't worked it out yet. And he would turn gray, and the memories obviously would I was fascinated by that. Absolutely fascinated. Wondered what on earth could have caused something that would make my beloved, loving, darling, dear father, who was so handsome and so sweet and kind, and I loved him so much. What could make him turn gray like that? So I became interested in the study of, there's been a number of, I was interested in the Civil War. I am interested in the Civil War and World War II. Now, it's funny, my dad fought in the Pacific. He fought in the Pacific, but what started to fascinate me about World War II was Hitler and the Nazis. I just could not let go of that. It was so darkly interesting to me. I was horrified at it and really, really interested. Couldn't let it go. The way I have always handled how to grapple with my understanding of history. What's history, and how to understand what is history, because think of history as the movie that we are all in. We are embedded in a movie, the movie called History. His story. What is the story? What is our story? Where did we come from? What are we doing? How are we evolving? How is this story moving through time? And so what I would do is the parts that were interesting to me, I was a voracious reader when I was younger. I had read Lord of the Rings by the time I was 9. By the time I was, I don't know, by now, I don't know when the last time I read it was, 15 years ago, maybe 20. I was married to I was married to this one, and we're going to have our 24th anniversary. So it was sometime within that, but it wasn't recently. But I've read it 11 times. Read The Hobbit that many times too. I was really interested in the Civil War. Read Gone with the Wind that many times too. I really loved that movie, that book. I, for the longest time, was a Confederate sympathizer until I really understood the structure of that whole thing and the politics of it and the spirit of it and the history of it and what that really was all about. And I have become a confirmed Yankee in the whole process. I am an enormous admirer of Abraham Lincoln on some deep spiritual levels. It is the biggest tragedy of him not living past the Civil War is he uniquely amongst them he would have been a better binder up of the wounds of the nation than Grant was, who was a good general, and I respect him and I'm grateful to him for the way he, put an end to the war. But Abraham Lincoln was going to have a way of not seeing the Confederates as, he was not going to punish them. He was going to welcome them back into the flock and see them as Americans. And there would have been a little bit less carpetbagging and a little bit less, what was the other, hold on. I think the rebuilding of the South would have been a lot kinder and a lot less divisive. And I think that we would have been in a better position today, perhaps, had Lincoln not been assassinated at the end of that war, which is very tragic. In any case, I'm getting lost. I know why I was telling you this. When I study a moment in history, I will find a historical fiction on the time period and read that first. Then, as soon as I have a sympathetic view of what it's like to live in that time, what it feels like, I have transported my consciousness into the minds of and spirits of the heroes and heroines of the story. And now I'm looking out on the world of the time, especially if the author was good. Then, as you mature, as you run across reference books of the same era, and you take classes of the same era, and then the world starts, and you watch Jeopardy, and you factoids come at you, and you start piecing it together, and you go, oh, okay, that's where we are. This is where we are. This is what we're doing. Watch us evolving through time. We are evolving. We are our consciousness of who we are and what's going on is evolving, and our inner beings are moving us to a place of better and incremental improvement over time. It absolutely is. Go back in time and take a good gander at what it used to be like. It was harsh. Go watch Poldark. Go watch Outlander. Go watch Troy. Go watch anything. The Vikings. Go watch. It's nothing like. Now is nothing like what it was 100 years ago, a couple of 100 years ago, and it's moving to the better. The arc is moving to the better. There are pockets of resistance that slow the whole process down. It could be a lot faster if we would know in a positive way who we are, love ourselves, love each other, quit doubting it, just trust, have faith, and go. We would just go. But that's not who we are. That's not who we are. And the reason that's not who we are is because this comes to another little point of, if you have come to know me and what it is that my message is. My message is, first of all, I talk about our configuration, how we are designed, so that we understand what our positive and negative emotions actually mean. Our negative emotions just mean we have gotten backwards to our positive self, who we really are. That's the truth of it. You are your positive self. And you might be identifying with your negative self, who doesn't actually exist. Your negative self is simply you backwards to yourself. Here, let's go back to this picture, which is inadequate because you're not really a binary, you're a trinary, right? But your trinary consists of these two binary parts, so I guess it's still it is still a valid slide. The one on the left is your source mind. The one on your right is your specific, conventional, expirational, physical mind. However, that physical mind still thinks vibrational thoughts. And those vibrational thoughts can be read, well, you can't read the thoughts, but you can read the vibration of it. We can't translate it. We don't know how to, read the vibration and then translate that into knowing what you were thinking about. We might be able to know what emotion you were in, though, whether you were angry or whether you were, by reading the electromagnetic field being put off by your physical brain can be read through a magnetoencephalogram. It's a state-of-the-art device. It goes around your head like a hairdryer, like an old-fashioned hairdryer, and it reads your brain waves in the same way that an EEG does, but that one has the nodes that are on your skull. They tape them to your head, and that helps read. But this is nothing touches your head and it sits outside of it. Anyway, so what I'm saying is that your physical mind is thinking vibrational thoughts. It's creating I'm sorry. I'm trying to get comfortable, and I don't know whether it's translating. I don't know if you can hear me moving around. If so, I'm very sorry. The reason I bring that up is because your physical mind is thinking vibrational thoughts, and your source mind is thinking vibrational thoughts, and that's why there is a resonant relativity between them. Your negative self is not you. It's not real. It is just your physical mind getting backwards to your real self. Only the love aspect of you is real. You should only be identifying with that one. You should only be identifying others from that position too. So when you see someone misbehaving, you should know who they really are. And now, from the position of knowing who they really are, you can tell what's gone wrong. You can see that they are backwards to themselves. They are balled up have gotten themselves twisted around. They are out of alignment with their two selves. They are now, it's not as easy as that because it's big. It's big. Now, I intimidated that I had an agenda. My biggest physical agenda, if I ever have any physical effect to this physical world of any sort, this is the one I want to have, because I believe that this one will have the most bang for my buck. I want us to get off of fossil fuels. Because, and I want us to get on source energy. Ultimately, because our using source energy to power our civilization will not only clean up the air and the water and cease murdering the planet, it will It will, what's the word for this? Disengage, defuse, disable, disintegrate the centralized power structure forces at play on the planet right now, which are causing great harm and posing great threat to the future of the planet. If we go all out World War III, like we went all out World War II, we will turn the planet into a cinder. And so we can't do that. Hopefully also we have some extraterrestrial guardians who will stop us from all out thermonuclear war. What's the other word? The word for global thermonuclear war. I do believe that we have guardians that will stop us from that. But, even short of that, we can still turn this planet into a sewer, into a cinder, into a gasping, choking, the desolation of smog, the desolation before Mordor. It's all the same kind of spirit. We can turn the planet into that, and we will if we continue to burn fossil fuels. I believe that all of this information that I have put together, and I'm saying, look at this, study this, it's true. Study this, put it into your operating system. It is absolutely in alignment with reality. The law of attraction is in alignment with reality. It absolutely is. This unified physics, the unification of the quantum and cosmological worlds through the mathematics of Nassim Haramein, absolutely real. Absolutely in alignment with reality. This, I believe, what do I mean in alignment? Well, and how is this going to get us off fossil fuels? Well, I'm saying the same thing every day. My show is the same show every day, although it could be different. If I had other people talking to me, we could add some other things in. Because everything adds into this. When you set up your operating system, your consciousness operating system, when it gets set up in alignment with itself, with your physical, thinking, logical, analytical, physical mind, in alignment with reality, with your two selves, with your greater self, with your spirit, with your knowing, with universal consciousness, when you get it into alignment, it doesn't mean that you know everything, but it means that everything you know is in alignment. And so whatever you know, you can go with it. Isn't that funny? We need to get into alignment. And what happens when you're not in alignment? Well, you start falling into states of negative emotion. You keep blaming the conditions for throwing you into those states of negative emotion, but it's really the alignment or not alignment of your physical mind's thoughts with your broader perspective's thoughts, both of which are having thoughts. Your source mind is having thoughts. You are having thoughts. And as a matter of fact, your source mind is having thoughts about the same things you're having thoughts about. It's just how you might be thinking all kinds of thoughts that your inner being's not thinking. Your inner being is still looking at what you're looking at. Your inner being is in your body, in your situation, in your love. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you what your inner being is doing. And I find this really interesting. And somewhere in here, I think I'm going to try to inject this thing that I never say. I never talk about it, but I realize how much of a game changer it was for me. And that is this ask and it is given aspect of the situation. Because source energy, when you ask, it is given. But you got to understand how it was given, what form it's given, and how you have to, what you have to do to crack the code on how it was given, how you can be in on it. Now, the fact is that it's given, and in the process, down the road, somehow that expansion and the manifestation that reflects that expansion is happening. It is happening. Is it going to happen next generation? The generation after? On some other planet? Because we turned this one to a cinder? Or on a different version of this planet? Because there are many versions of this planet. There are versions of this planet where we blow it up. And there's versions of this planet where we don't. There is no shortage of universes, and they are all like nested one within one another, alongside one another. Actually, I don't want to get too crazy on that. I do know that in a way it's all mental, and that my ability to live in the universe that I want doesn't prevent you from living in the universe that you want, even if our two universes are different. Like if I want to live the success of planet Earth, it does not prevent you from living the apocalypse of it. I think it's possible. If I'm wrong about that, then I could be empowering people to blow up the planet, thinking that, well, the ones who want to live on the planet that makes it to. So forget everything that I just said. Forget. And if I was a better editor, I'd go back and edit it out. But I'm not, so I won't. What I'm saying is, what you want is created the very instant you want it. But it's the spirit of it that's there. And if you would home in on the spirit, the implicate positive to the negative you just asked. So what am I saying? When you have lack, you desire abundance. That desire, that rocket of desire itself creates the wanted. The wanted is the desire, what you wanted. And it is a frequency. And if you would focus in on the frequency of what is wanted, instead of getting all balled up in the frequency of why you wanted it. I'm hungry, that's why I wanted it. Focus on the wanted, and the universe, there's a process, but the universe will deliver it to you. You've just got to learn to focus forward at the wanted, which is where your inner being is focusing. Forward on the wanted. Always focusing on the wanted. And the wanted, you could also say the loved. You could also say love, because that's what your inner being is. That's what your inner being is focusing on. That's where we all come together. That's where it all works. That's the glue that actually holds the whole universe together, is this love. And the love is actually all of us standing on a single shared point that we all spin out of. And isn't it interesting? And how our understanding of the origin of mass and the nature of gravity, I need to change that. I think I will as soon as this, I could do it right now. So I claim that our better understanding of ourselves and our source nature will result in us being more peaceful in our organization with one another, and will ultimately allow us to plug into a different source, plug our civilization into a different energy source. And this different energy source is going to decentralize the energy equation, which is going to decentralize the power equation. Isn't that funny? Energy and power here. It's going to decentralize it. Now, I realize that I can understand why that's a national security issue. But it's not going to keep us safe the way we've got it going on right now. The secret is not just safe with the black ops arm of the military, the U.S. military. That is not a good place for certain understandings of gravity and the nature of reality. It's not okay to just leave it there. I do understand why this is going to change the game, people. It is absolutely going to change the game. You are going to see unfold in front of you the true 21st century technological. The 21st century is going to be as different from the 20th century as the 20th century was from the 19th. And it's hard to imagine that right now, because right now we are just furiously building more and more of pretty much the same things that we were doing last century. Right now, my local airport is working on an upgrade. They're massively redoing it, and I wish they wouldn't. I liked the airport the way it was. I thought it was cute and sweet and perfect in every way. I really enjoyed it. And besides that, our future of transportation is not going to look like what it looks like right now. It's not going to be on jet fuel. It's not going to be running on jet fuel. And it's not going to be freeing itself from gravity by brute thrust the way our airplanes do right now. It's not going to be like that. I would like to see more of our collective infrastructure, energy, and focus to be put more towards where we're going in the future, not where we are in this moment. I know that I sound unrealistic at times, but I promise you that this new understanding of where reality comes from. Well, I've put the slide on the origin of mass and the nature of gravity paper. It's not the full abstract, because the full abstract doesn't fit. It's really long. Wrong one. That's the full abstract. But this paper is explaining exactly how reality particles pop into being across they go from being quantum vacuum oscillators to they pop into being because they start to spin. And then here we go. As they come into being, they are spinning. Spin is baked into the cake. It matters to the mathematics. It matters to the technology to understand that gravity is not a secondary effect of mass. Gravity is a fundamental property of mass as it comes into being. It's the spin of the coffee. Right now, the matter that we add up in the mass of the universe, when we calculate the mass of the universe, is all the matter that we see. It's like the bits of cream in the coffee never mind. Go watch the show. What show should we watch, you ask? Here's my links list. Go watch The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. This is really important. We need to get off of fossil fuels, and we need to get off of them yesterday. This movie, The Lost Century, shows how over Unity devices could have incrementally kept us off of this mass, centralized. The way we use fossil fuels now, totally not necessary. And we have been guided and encouraged and hoodwinked and lied to and whispered at, grima worm-tongued. We have been manipulated into the infrastructure systems that we've got right now that are going to kill us. They are not sustainable. They are so fragile. Do you know how easy it is for us to get offline? And I don't mean just off the internet. I mean without power. And without power, I cannot control my environment. And I live in a hot environment. You know? As a matter of fact, without power here at my house, I can't pump water. Because my I have a well that needs power to pump it, and I have some numbers of anyway, we are too fragile. We are way too fragile, and our infrastructure is way too fragile. And it doesn't make sense that we have to go back in and redo our concrete and asphalt infrastructures every, constantly. I'm sorry. I'm at a loss for words. I know where we're going, and to continue to see us do what we do now, especially since we're sort of behind schedule. We could have incrementally been understanding more and more the world around us and the source energy that we are and the source energy that surrounds us in order to understand who we are as pure positive beings and who we are in order to plug our civilization into a free, clean, kind, powerful, sustaining source of all energy. I also would like to see us become intergalactic beings, but I don't think we are going to do that as long as we keep seeing the universe from the long direction. When you see it from the physical direction, those distances are too far to go. When you see it from the vibration, from the frequency and vibrational direction, now you understand, oh, the shortest distance between 2 points is not a straight line. It's the fact that we all share the same point. Go there, and you can travel anywhere. And where is this shared point? Well, listen to my show. So then the next thing I have on my links list, Origin, Mass, Nature, Gravity video. That's the video that describes the paper. I just showed you the abstract too. I also have the full paper later. We have Quantum Revolution. That's Nassim Haramein's 12-episode series over on Gaia. Starts with the science of a unified universe. That's the episode that I've got a link to. Then the Connected Universe, that's the movie that was made in 2016, narrated by Patrick Stewart, talking about when Nassim Haramein published the first paper. And he's got people working with him too. He's not all by himself. And as a matter of fact, there was 2 others that published that Origin of Mass, Nature, Gravity paper. You can see their names on here. I don't know how to pronounce their names. Cyprien Hermonprey and Olivier Alirol. I'm sorry. Please forgive me if I just slaughtered your name. But we're back to the links list. So the Connected Universe was made in 2016. Nassim published the first unifying paper, the first math that unified the quantum world with the cosmological world. The math has unified them. Now, your understanding of that, what that means, how that works, you've got to deal with that in your own consciousness, how that works. But the math works, and the math is what you need before the technology flows. And so that's why we need to push our civilization this direction. If we will push it this direction, we will get off fossil fuels. And from that position, we can recreate the abundance on planet Earth. We can re-garden Eden. We can get into alignment with who we really are and how life really works, and find our sustainable future. Find our sustainable self. So the next one is Living in the Future's Past. This is the YouTube link to the free version of this movie. Jeff Bridges is the one who narrates this one. And the reason I like it is because it helps you realize, no matter how much of an individual that you think that you are, we are a super organism. We are a collective being on planet Earth, and we need to address ourselves that way. Now, while it is absolutely true, we need to get into alignment and get the whole thing flowing correctly. The way you do it is you personally log into, link into, get into alignment with your own source. And then from that position, take any impulses that you get and act on them. That will put you into sync with the rest of the whole. Oh, whoops, I don't want to be here. I still need to finish this. I'm not quite done. Living in the Future's Past, then Paul Levy, his articles list, then The Origin and Mass Nature of Gravity paper, and then the Whirling Dervishes video. You know what? I could probably take some of that last stuff off, and maybe next time I will. Full links list. You can do any of my earlier stuff where I started, where I have this full links list, but I think I'm going to take some of it off because it's so unwieldy. Look at that. And it isn't even a description of my video, but it's right there in the description of my video section. I really need a tech person to help me with this. I need someone who sees the potential of this as clearly as I do. We will make our way to the most amazing future. We have the most amazing future already in our vortex of creation. And our inner being is tending to this vortex of creation. We have created it. It is inevitable. It is done. It is done. It is done. We are headed that way. We have expanded. Now, how long are we going to resist our own expansion? And is it a race now? Do we catch up with the expansion before we blow ourselves up off the surface of the planet? I actually don't think we're going to do that. The planet's very large, and consciousness is definitely growing. There are gurus aplenty. They are everywhere. Everyone's a guru. You know, I'm a freaking guru. Everyone's a guru. But that's a beautiful thing, because that means that we are at that moment in time where we are ready to understand who we are and how to move forward. How to move forward. We've got to make that transition from the law to the spirit. And how do you do that? Well, it isn't going to be by following some specific religion. It's going to be by following the spirit. Literally, by following the spirit. So what the hell does that mean? How do you follow the spirit if you aren't following a formula put forth by some religion? Well, you got to understand your own design. And then follow the guidance that your inner being is trying to give you. Follow its unique, specific...
Sorry, I don't understand.
Oh, shut up. I accidentally touched my phone and got Siri listening to me, and she didn't know what I was talking about. What are you saying? Of course you don't understand, Siri. Know thyself. That's all. If we would know who we are, and in general, and how the rules of this magnificent divine matrix that we are embedded in, this quantum field that is connected to itself, that is touching itself, that is informing itself, big and small. All of the information of the small is going up to the big. All the information of the big is going back down to the small, because it is mathematically possible for an infinite amount of information. Doesn't matter how much information it is, it can be held on a point infinitely small. That's why it works. That's how the universe is holographic. That's how a little proton, every proton in every atom of your entire physical structure, every proton is an integer, a little black hole reflecting all of the information of all of the physicality of all of the universe. It's what it's doing. All the way up and all the way down, we live in a black hole structure. And through these singularities, every black hole has a singularity that it has collapsed to. That's why it's a black hole. It isn't necessarily a maw of consumption dragging in, through its powerful gravitational forces, everything in its... is actually pulling into its field of orbit the spin of all the stuff. It's all... We just live in the craziest, coolest, most amazing universe ever. And our physical structure that we have been blessed with is the most amazing vehicle to travel this universe in. And we need to focus that way. And if we would focus that way, we could solve every one of our problems, because we are amazing. We are amazing, and we are cool, and only the love is real, and everybody is really trying to do their best. Everyone, even the most disagreeable monster that you know of, is still doing his best. Now you might say, well, that's not comforting. That's his best? That's not exactly the message to take. Yes, when we get out of alignment, it gets powerfully, powerfully bad. It can get so monstrously bad. It can get all the way to Holocaust bad. It just means we need to know who we are. The reason that happened last century, the Holocaust, perpetrated by the Nazis upon the Jews and others that they considered undesirable, the reason that happened is because up until that moment, we did not realize that it could happen. We did not know that our negative momentum could take us that far. If you lock in to those lower frequencies, if you identify fully with your negative self and move from within that frame, you join, depends on how good your focus is. Hitler's focus was really good. And he focused in on those negative momentums, and then he locked in to after he focused in and then locked in, then the momentum took him away. It took him away. From his own description, he acted as though his life just took him away. So there is tremendous power and danger in the dark side. The dark side is all of those dark emotions. It's believing your negative self. The only reason your negative self feels that way is because of a lack of resonance with who you really are. That's the only reason it feels that way. And he felt like he needed to act because he was pinging off of the, oh man, I'm getting some really powerfully interesting realizations though. It's all in service to us knowing who we are. He acted in service of us knowing who we are. We need to know who we are. We need to know that this is possible. Not so that we're all in danger and fearful about it, but so that we can see what the implication is. The implication is that you're getting crosswise of your source energy. And it's really powerful. Actually, the implication is a lot more profound than that. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time this morning. So, I'm unfocused. I have two sides of this equation. One is the psychological side. One has to do with what this means to human behavior, what this means to human emotion, what this means to human psychology, all of that. Politics, sociology, all of that. That's a big, powerful, and profound part of this. And that is actually the side that affects most people. Them understanding what their inner being is really doing. That you have an aspect of yourself that asks for the positive and then is always there. Doesn't leave it. That love that you asked for, that more, that kindness, that to the positive, that pure aspect, not translated into the physical, but left in the pureness of its positivity, that aspect of you is permanent. It's eternal. It sits there in that positive place, expanding. Whenever you ask for expansion, it expands and then sits there, calling you to that farthest point that you have become. Calling you to your... It all gets so esoteric. This is indeed what religions are all trying to get to. They get gobbed up they get twisted around as well. If they start thinking in physicality and then talking about dark emotions, if they aren't telling you that you are these two selves, then they're missing something. However, I don't want to ever focus on what anybody else is missing because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you know who you are. And when you understand who you are, then you'll understand your religion. You'll go, oh, that's what you're saying. Oh, and look at where you came from. I used to have notes. I should go see if I can find any of these notes. I'll do it when my son-in-law, my spiritual son-in-law, helps me with the back garage, because that's where it's going to be. I used to have notes, but I used to notice, it doesn't matter what I used to. The word religion, I think it means linking back. And I noticed how a religious thought has a kind of continuum to it, a continuum of it, and people who have carried it, and their history going back, and the translation of their ideas and stuff, and how it had a really interesting way of tracing your soul back through history in a continuum of thought, linking back. Religions have their purpose, absolutely. Dark and light. Don't judge anything, accept it all, and then just go, wow, is that what's happening? That's so cool. We live in the coolest universe, people. The coolest universe. And the Divine Matrix is more than capable of solving any and all problems that we have. But we've got to come at this from a holistic point of view if we want to solve all the problems on the earth. And what are the problems? Well, they're big and small. There's all kinds of big and small problems. Small problems being things like infrastructure issues all over the planet, where you drive up to a traffic light, and there's nobody coming any direction, and it makes you sit there for 90 seconds until it lets you go. That's a problem, especially while we are burning fossil fuels, because I'm sitting there in my car burning 90 seconds extra fossil fuels than we needed to. Why did we do that? Well, part of it is because our whole infrastructure is kind of built on making sure that it gets planned inefficiencies in order to gum up the works just long enough so that you can cause enough resistance that you can capitalize somewhere. Well, if we would get rid of capitalizing, we wouldn't need to do that. That would be a good idea. But I understand why we capitalize right now. Part of it is this Who Am I project that humanity is involved in. Because we need to know who we are, and we don't know who we are. And so there's this necessity. We are linking one up with one another, up even unto the wholeness, the allness. We're all this great, massive, centralized us that we are becoming. That we need to stop, first of all. But that will come when we understand source energy. We'll all be able to go off into the bushes with our little source energy devices, capable of plugging our technologies into. Now we need to capitalize if we want to acquire technological devices, but we no longer have to capitalize just to acquire the energy source. We won't have to do that anymore. And boy, is this going to relieve the system. It is going to be such a influx of energy into the system. You're not even going to be able to imagine what's going to happen when we plug into source energy. And everybody has all the power they need to make whatever conceptual dreams they want true. Now, there is going to be a lot of cult action going on because we don't know who we are. And that's just what's going to keep happening, because that's a pattern in human psychology that happens. Now, I know why Paul Levy refers to the concept of Wetiko, because Wetiko is it's a helpful way of looking at this phenomenon from a macro perspective. And then still being able to take that macro perspective and reflect it back down to a micro perspective and look at it and go, oh, okay, I can see what you're talking about. This Wetiko disease, which is basically a condition of the head not being plugged into the heart. That's what it is. There is a frequency, an optimal frequency of a connection between the brain and the heart. It's 0.1 hertz, I think, is what it is. The HeartMath Institute in Northern California has been studying this for about 25 years. The importance of the connection between the heart and the brain. And when that connection is properly made, and then that there's all kinds of things that happen. The heart rate variability of the person increases. I believe they become more flexible, they can react more appropriately in any direction depending on what the environment throws at them when they're in that state. I believe that's probably what it refers to. Anyway, it all connects. You know, Native Americans, when they noticed this condition that the white man seemed to have, where his heart and his brain were not in sync with one another. They're not talking to one another. They are not in alignment with one another. And so a man whose heart is not in alignment with his head will find that his head is not in alignment with his source. And that's what the problem is. It's not any other thing. That's the problem. And the answer then would be alignment. We've got to understand alignment. We've got to inspire one another to our alignment. We've got to get into alignment ourselves with our own alignment. Alignment is everything. Yourself and yourself. Big Y, small y. Big U, little u. Micro and macro. Your eternal and your temporary, specific, expirational aspects. They are both you. Your eternal aspect is you. It is you as much, if not more, than your physical self is. But don't count out your physical self. Your physical self is absolutely vital to the equation. And you getting into your physical equipment and operating that equipment properly is absolutely vital to the equation. You are important. You are important. And do you know what disables, what hobbles, what cripples most human beings? It's thoughts of unworthiness, which is nuts. It's nuts. We are important to the equation in our physical form. Without our physical form, there's nothing happening. There's no history going down at all. There's no good, there's no bad, there's no light, there's no dark, nothing's happening. It's just a dead universe. Without the physicality, there's nothing happening. The spirituality is just the laws of the universe, the motion of it all, the way that it works, that's what. So have I said anything profound today? I'm not sure I have. I'm not sure I got anywhere today that I didn't get yesterday. I would like to get farther and farther, but I have to keep coming back and saying the core stuff. And the core stuff takes at least an hour to say anyway. But I've said the core stuff, so maybe I can just branch out. I haven't said everything. How about cymatics? Cymatics. That's the study of the relationship between vibration and form. Pioneered by a man named Hans Jenny, who would take a metal plate and sprinkle a granular medium on top of that metal plate. Anyway, the only reason I put this in is because it helps me to demonstrate to you that the universe really is vibrational. This is not just philosophical crap that I'm saying. It's not just we're not just talking about, comparative religions. We're talking about ultimate truth. What is ultimate truth? Well, let's think about it this way. Let's think of ultimate truth as being the elephant. And we can talk about every single guru or religion, isolated guru putting forth a frame of thought, or any religion putting forth their collective frame of thought, or whatever. Think of each one of those, and I'm one of these, as a blind man trying to figure out what an elephant is. When they're standing at different positions on the elephant, they're feeling around at different characteristics of the elephant. One's at the ear, one's at the leg, one's at the tail, one's at the trunk, and one's at the side. And they're all saying different things about what the elephant is. And if they start arguing about it, then they're wrong. If they understand that they are all pieces of the whole, and that if they put their picture together, then they would understand what an elephant is. That's basically what you're talking about if you're talking about religion. Now, there might be some clever, wise old man, not old, not wise, but blind. There might be some clever blind man who starts moving and feeling different parts of the elephant. And as he starts moving around the elephant, he starts getting a much better idea of what this elephant is. It's kind of like that, right? It's also not all in our... Oops, I shouldn't just do that. That's the punchline to that story. It's not all in our heads, although it is all in our heads. It's not all up in your analytical head. It's not all about thoughts. It's absolutely about emotions. Your emotions, your emotional guidance system, trying to show you where to go. What your thoughts are doing is, if you take a thought that feels bad, sort of think of it like getting a bug in your mouth. Spit it out. Spit it out. Doesn't taste good. You don't like it. You don't want it. Doesn't feel good. Spit it out. Reach for a different thought, because your two minds really need to blend with one another. Your source mind knows. Your physical mind thinks. Now, your thinking mind can get a lot closer to thinking about what's real if it would pay more attention to what your inner being knows about the situation. If you would defer, your thinking brain is a secondary organ, but it thinks that it's running the show. Your inner being, your source mind, is running the show. Your source mind that is connected to all of the rest of the universe and all of the flow of all physicality and all evolution and all momentum. It knows. It knows what's real. And it knows how what you feel connects to what's real. It knows what you want. It knows that you want feelings of joy. That you're actually, this is supposed to be fun. Being alive is supposed to be fun. Can you believe that? That's a crazy thing to say. That's a crazy thing to say based on, perhaps the world around you. I don't know. I don't know whose ears are going to hear this, and I don't know what your ears are going through. Are you living a world, a life of suffering? Is your mind tormenting you? Are you being tortured from inside? Or do you feel like you're being battered from the outside? Either one of those two things? Either one of those two things happening to you? Well, if they are, I would suggest that you become a student of your own nature and get a better understanding of who you are. Because the reason that you're getting beat up by the world is that you're not in alignment with yourself. You don't know that you are two selves that are trying to be the third self, which is the two selves joined together. Actually, I do need a better visual for this, because this really is the two that goes to the three. That Bashar download, 1, 3, 5, 7, 11. 1 is the allness that we are all a part of. 3 is the... So, this dual perspective is actually not a dual perspective, because these two are combined. And they're either combined well or they're combined poorly, but they are combined. And that's the 3. The 1, the 3 is the binary position implies the point in the center that sees both sides. That's the 3. The 5 is the 5 things you cannot change. You exist. There is nothing you can do to change that. Everything is here and now. Let's wait. Hold on a second. I'm going to find this, because the 5th one I was having a hard time thinking of the other day. Here we go. 2, everything is here and now. There's nothing you can do to change that. 3, the one is all and the all is one. So you exist. Everything is here and now. The one is all, the all is one. What you put out is what you get back. There's nothing you can do to change that. And the last one is everything changes except the laws. There's nothing you can do to change that. So you can't stop the change that you're going to see in the physicality around you. And right now we're living in a time of tremendous, fast change. And are you keeping up with it? And how are you keeping up with it? So what's the 7? The 7 is the 7 things that you need physically to survive. Your physical being needs to be a continuum of a physical being. You need air, water, sleep, food, shelter, relationship, and expression. And those are in order of how fast you will come to a halt if you do not get them. Air is first, water next. And then actually you'll go psychotic and die of some crazy, violent, whatever, if you don't get sleep, probably, before you die of lack of food. Of course, there's exceptions to all this. This is a big general rule. That's the 7. Now, the 11 is the 11 aspects of passion and joy, and I don't know what those are. I do not know what the 11 is. I didn't actually hear the 11 part of the 1, 3, 5, 7, 11 download that Bashar did. He does a lot of interesting things. I don't see him as being as... Well, he is a personality, not necessarily infinite intelligence. So there's resistance in Bashar. But he's also non-physically focused. And so he's got a great deal of wisdom, and he doesn't have anything like the resistance that a physical being would have. I don't know. I'm just musing. I don't know what to talk about. There's so many things to talk about. Or the election cycle and the meaning of that whole situation. We could talk about that all day, but I need somebody in the room to help me with this discussion. And so actually I think later this morning I'm going to get that. I'm going to do a special edition of the show with our special guest, our favorite special guest. Actually, she's the only one that I have ever done an episode of the show with. But she is one of my favorite people on the planet. Her ability to grasp these concepts is really very, very advanced. both of my children are pretty good at it. They have their varying. Each one of them has their own particular challenge places, just like I do. Just like we all do. This is your emotional guidance scale. This is supposed to be fun. If you would learn how to use your equipment, it could be a lot more fun. Don't take your negative self seriously. Do not identify with your negative self. Your negative self is not you. It is you turned backwards. Think of it that way. You've just gotten yourself turned around. Get yourself turned forward and then move forward. Boy, that sounded... what does that mean? Pay attention to how you feel. And know that every feeling is going to have its root in a thought that you took, that you picked up, that you started thinking, that you took up. I don't know how you want to put that. But every thought, every feeling flows from a thought source. And if you become very intolerant of negative emotion, you become, you get to the place where you no longer identify with your own negative emotions. Oh, that's not me. That's not me. What is that? Oh, okay, I've gotten crosswise. And you become very intolerant of negative emotion. Then you start feeling it immediately if you start getting one. And if you run with it very far, you'll get out of whack with yourself pretty dang quickly. The idea is to not run with it. The idea is to immediately go, oh, where did that thought come from? What influence was I under when I took that thought? Was that a fearful thought or is that a loving thought? The impetus at the source of the thought is everything, because that vibration, whatever it is going to get bigger. If it's a negative source, even if it's a tiny little negative, if you start there and run with it, it'll get bigger. So was it a tiny little disempowering thought that's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as you go with it? Or was it a tiny little loving thought that as you go with it, it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger? So interesting. We live in the most interesting paradigm. Sitting in the most interesting vehicles of consciousness at the most interesting time of all history. With so much potential in front of us, it is breathtaking. And what are we going to do with this? Who are we? How are we going to solve our problems? Our problems of how to get along with one another. How to organize 10 billion people on planet Earth in such a way that they are moving harmoniously about the planet with one another. They are creating objects that they want to share with one another on the human supply chain stream. They are in their own spaces taking care of their own physical needs and circulating goods, services, communication, and goods and services, whatever, with one another. How do you do this? How do you do this? You don't do it through a system of laws, although the laws, if they are inspired laws, they are in alignment, and then so the laws themselves could be in alignment, but the system of law of the system of crime and punishment law and order and crime and punishment, that system could be out of alignment. So even though the law might have been in alignment, the system of identifying people who did not obey that law and then chasing them down and then punishing them, that's very much not in alignment, people. Ultimately, there's only one of us here. And so we don't want to, we have to give one another ultimate freedom. We have to find a pathway to do that. I can hear myself kind of jumping around a bit. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. It's not a bad show this morning. I'm not having a bad show, but I'm not having a particularly inspired one. I don't know that I've said anything that has never been said before. I do know that we need to know who we are. Every day I will keep reiterating this. We need to know who we are. It will solve every problem that we have. What are our problems? Sixth mass extinction. That's a big one. Do you know what that means? Sixth mass extinction. Sixth mass extinction. 3 words. 3 words that is actually the encapsulation of us destroying our own biofield. We're doing it. We're snipping those threads because we don't know who we are. As soon as we do know who we are, we can start regrowing those threads. We can start rediscovering the beautiful and blessed non-human creatures. And maybe encourage all the most gentle, the sweetest, the kindest, the funniest, the ones that we want to play with. Let's encourage those. And maybe the spiny, poisonous, most dangerous of them, we sort of like discourage those. Now I understand why they do that. They develop that way as a self-protective mechanism, and there's going to be human beings who will do spiritually the same kind of thing. The idea is leave the rattlesnake alone. So many things to say, and yet I don't have anything to say. What am I going to do with that? One of the things I usually bring up in my show, and I've forgotten to bring it up today, is just my little notion. I think we're genetically modified. Here, this is the neocortex diagram. It shows your neocortex as sort of an overview mind to your lower minds that you still have and are still in charge of what they're in charge of. But you have this overview mind that is your broader perspective. It's sort of your analogy, your physical analogy to your source mind. It's your overview mind. And that's why it resonates or doesn't resonate with your broader perspective, who also is an overview mind. And your 4 states of being, this is a specific, general, positive, and negative. Your specific, going specific, is putting on the accelerator. Pulling back to the general is putting on the brakes. Now, I have gotten so general that I am just so slow. My brakes, I am not moving very fast at all in my life right now. And yet, I am starting to move. I only go specific when I am positive. And so all my negative momentums are petering out. They are, from lack of attention, they are dying of oxygen starvation. And my positive momentums are starting to gain speed. I'm picking up golf. I've got a pretty good relationship with my daughters who I want to help them succeed in a big way. I don't need or even want to succeed in a big way in some ways now. I live comfortably. I don't need a fast life. I'm fine. But they're young, and one of them is raising a family. The other one has all kinds of ambitions about, life and herself, and she's got energy and thoughts about stuff. I want to help them succeed. And so, what am I saying? I'm an older person, and yet I feel like life is opening up to me, like it's getting exciting and interesting. And even what's getting ready to happen politically is, in a way, really scary. I'm trying to see it scary, like scary, like you're getting ready to go down the big slide. You're at the top of the big slide, the water slide, and you're getting ready to you're excited about it. It's fearful. It's going to be a crazy ride. But you're also getting ready for it. You're getting ready to be ready for it. It's not going to be scary. It's going to be interesting as this whole thing plays out. Oh my gosh. It's going to be the biggest "Who Am I" demonstration you've ever seen in your life. The biggest visual aid, to the energies moving. And as I continue to do the show, I think that as the world unfolds around me, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. So, where are we? I mean, who am I? Back to this diagram. This neocortex layer, it comes from, or a large portion of the volume, a lot of the volume, 76% of the volume of your neocortex comes from your human chromosome number 2, which is a fused chromosome. It just is. And it's fused in a fishy, suspicious way. Telomere to telomere, with redundancies on both sides clipped away. So now that chromosome needs to stay fused in order for it to be whole, because some redundancies on one side and then other redundancies on the other side. And so this chromosome becomes a wholeness now by staying together in this fusion. It stabilized the fusion. And not only that, it created the neocortex, which creates our higher emotions. It creates human emotions. The reason it is the source of human emotions is because of your source mind and your physical mind. Now your physical mind here on the right, now with this neocortex, has a strong enough signal, has a big enough overview going on that it can actually have thoughts, sustained thoughts that are out of alignment with. So when your mammalian self has an emotion that is not in alignment with source, it doesn't matter, because the mammal doesn't have a brain that is thinking sustained thoughts. It just has an emotion, momentary. It's a ping off of the environment. Something happened in the environment that displeased it. That's totally fine. But then it didn't sit and stew about it. It didn't percolate thoughts in reference to anything. It didn't pronounce anyway. It is the difference between us and the other animals. And I believe that the reason that we have this neocortex in the way that we have it is because somebody genetically modified us. I really think that's what happened. It's hard for me to come to any other conclusion. I try to come to other conclusions, and I just can't. I can't. With this bit of information, I have a hard time. And now that I have this bit of information, this adds in. Now I can go focus on other information that might imply other things, but it has to add this in because this is true. All things true need to be added in. Added in that big field of information, that place where all the information is, the place where you're evaluating the whole thing. In that place, all the information has to be there. What you're focusing on is a different matter. You don't have to focus on everything. You don't have to focus on dark things. You really shouldn't focus on dark things. Actually, you should keep in the center of the aperture of your main focus. You should keep light. You should keep love. You should keep hope. You should keep positive in the center of your focus. You can see the negative in your peripheral vision. Oh, that's another way to look at this picture, is looking at just these are apertures of focus. They're camera apertures, actually. That's what I found online. I was looking for something that would help illustrate this thing that I saw as our two spinning discs of ourselves, our larger self and our smaller self. And I thought, they're just like spinning apertures of focus. And they are apertures. And your source self, its eye is open bigger than the aperture of your physical self's mind's eye. You get that? Anyway, I'd love to talk about all of this. I should spend less time clumsily talking about how all of my concepts add together. You know, this is my concepts being the physics of the unified universe and the nature of the quantum matrix. The quantum field, the divine matrix, the quantum matrix, however you want to, the connected universe, how I am connected to everything, how the Plancks that my body is made of are dancing with all the rest of the Plancks, and how it's holographic, and how it's a black hole structure all the way up and all the way down, and the multiverses are nested dolls. They're Russian dolls. Nested in one way, and then I also believe that there are multiple versions splitting off from themselves, so that there is not just one Earth of this size, and then there's universes that are bigger. We're all embedded in the same thing, so it's like there's one reality that has many dimensions, up and down, layers of density, and they're all nested within one another, all holding the same space. Actually, everything is indeed occupying the exact same space. It's all sitting on the same shared point that we all share, and that's where you go if you want to travel shorter distance to where you want to go. Oh man, I would have to think about that, what that means. There is a point we all share. It's the point where all the information is. It's every proton of every atom of your structure contains it. It's just the coolest thing. None of our problems are problems. We need to have faith that we can solve our problems. We need to know that the solution exists. The second the problem was created, the solution came into sight. You just have to get into the spiritual, vibrational frequency of the solution and quit banging the drum of the frequency of the problem. That's all. It's focus. Focus. Learn what your mechanism is, how your mechanism works, where your mind's eye is located. Your third eye. Your third eye. Everyone could do a better job igniting their third eye. Anyway, I see we are coming up to 2 hours, and I feel like I've rambled a bit today. I've had flashes of inspiration, and the rest of it's kind of like, I don't know where to go with this. But I did say, and later this morning, if you happen to be the one that listens to this show, I hope that I am going to post a special edition episode with the person in the room, and we'll listen to what I sound like when there's another soul in the room and we're bouncing ideas off of one another. She also has tremendous insights to add to the equation. So I hope that you will join us later. I hope that she will join us later. She's always got different things that pull her this way and that way, and so plans change. Anyway, I hope I will see you again later. If not, another episode today. I'll see you Tuesday, because tomorrow I am playing golf early, and I'm not going to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and do this. I just can't summon the energy. It's hard for me to focus, because I'm barely awake. I've been doing this for 2 hours, and it's only 7 o'clock now. All right. I love you. I really do. There's only one of us here. Of course I wish you success. I bid you peace, because I want peace with myself. I bid you joy, because that's what we're all here for. Let's find our joy. Let's get on to that fun iteration of planet Earth, because boy, can this be fun. This can be so much fun. We just need to get past this moment in time. We need to get on to source energy. We need to know who we are. To that service, I will be back. Until next time, I wish you well. I bid you peace. And most of all, may the source be with you.